Good. Welcome to summer here in Yuba City, 103 degrees. Oh, that's right. This is a closed session of the Yuba City City Council.
Yes, sir. Oh, sorry, he was talking to me.
June 1st, 2021. I've lost control. The governor has declared a state of emergency to exist in California. As a result of the threat of COVID-19, the governor also issued Executive Order N3320, which directs Californians to follow public health directives, including canceling large gatherings. The executive order also allows local legislative bodies to hold meetings via conference calls while still meeting state transparency requirements. The public's health and well-being are the top priority of the city of Yuba City, and you are urged to take all appropriate health safety precautions. This meeting is utilizing the Zoom application for this live broadcast. For this meeting, we will be using the questions and answers functionality of this tool in order to accommodate public comment. On your device, the question and answer section of the app is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For those that would like to comment during this meeting, please enter your comment into the question and answers portion of the app. And be sure to state the item you will be commenting on. During the public comment of each item, staff will read aloud the comments provided by the public for all to hear for that specific item. May I have roll call, please?
Mayor Boomgarden,
Here.
Vice Mayor Shaw,
Here.
Councilmember Espandola,
Here.
Councilmember Harris, here. Councilmember Kirchner.
Here. We are going to do closed session, and we have the advantage of having our best city attorney here to read what those items are going to be because he goes really quick.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. There are two items on. There's conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, the agency designated representatives as noted in the agenda. The employee organizations are Yuba City Police Officers, Police Sergeant, Yuba City Firefighters, Local 3793, Yuba City Fire Management, First Level Managers, Mid-Managers, Police Sworn Mid-Managers, and Public Employees, Local Number 1. The unrepresented employees are confidential employees, executive services employees. Closed session item B is threats of public services or facilities pursuant to Government Code Section 54957A, consultation with City Attorney and or Yuba City Fire Chief, Chief of Police, Director of Public Works, City Manager. Thank you.
The other night, couldn't remember my lines. Do we have any comments from the public?
No public comment.
All right, so we're adjourning to closed session. Good evening, everyone. I believe this is by far our largest crowd since the pandemic, so thank you for being here. It's always nice to have a full chambers. Going to go ahead and open this meeting. This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Yuba City for June 1st, 2021. The governor has declared a state of emergency to exist in California as a result of the threat of COVID-19, aka the coronavirus. The governor has also issued Executive Order N3320, which directs Californians to follow public health directives, including canceling large gatherings. The executive order also allows local legislative bodies to hold meetings via conference calls while still meeting state transparency requirements. The public's health and well-being are the top priority for the city of Yuba City, and you are urged to take all appropriate health and safety precautions. This meeting is utilizing the Zoom application for this live broadcast. For this meeting, we will be using the questions and answers functionality of this tool in order to accommodate public comment. On your device, the question and answer section of the app is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For those that would like to comment during this meeting, please enter your comment into the question and answers portion of the app, and be sure to state the item you will be commenting on. During the public comment of each item, staff will read aloud the comments provided by the public for all to hear for that specific item. Be timely with your questions, as once the public hearing is closed or the item has been discussed by the council and voted on, no more comments will be accepted for that item. May I have roll call, please?
Mayor Boomgarden,
Here.
Vice Mayor Shaw,
Here.
Councilmember Espandola,
Here.
Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Kirchner.
Here. All right, please stand. We'll have an invocation by Dave Kugelman representing the Sutter County Sheriff's Chaplain, and please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Jenna McKay.
Let's pray. Dear Father in heaven, we are truly grateful for the freedom we have in this country and specifically in our community to pray and to pray without fear. We know that people in other nations do not have this freedom. We ask you to help us to never, ever take it for granted. We also recognize that wisdom comes from people. It's limited, but wisdom that comes from you, that you pour out, has the ability to achieve amazing things. I ask you now for that wisdom for each and every one of those who serve on this council. Help them to govern with selfless hearts, selfless motives, and always with the best interests of those they serve in the city of Yuba City. And in addition to asking for guidance, wisdom, and direction for this council, I pray also for a world that seems to be in total chaos, and I ask sincerely for you to intervene and help bring stability back to our world. And I ask these things in Jesus' name. And we all said? Amen. And one final thing I see on the agenda, it says invocation and inspiration. So your inspiration is don't give up hope, God's in control.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Kugelman. Now the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jenna. First item is the city attorney's report on our closed session items that occurred before this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no reportable action taken in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Next item is agenda modifications and approval of agenda. Staff is recommending continuing item number 14, which deals with the community development block grants, to the next regular meeting on June 15th, 2021 as a public hearing. Any opposition to that? Okay, seeing none, we'll make that adjustment. All right, we've got a lot of presentations tonight, thankfully. And we're going to start off with our Seroptimist of Marysville, Yuba City. They're going to be talking about human trafficking, their human trafficking backpack drive. I'd like to introduce Sandy Drone. She always mispronounces my last name, so I was going to give her a little shot there, but I didn't do it. She's with the Seroptimist of Marysville, Yuba City.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Michelle Blake. I'm president of our Seroptimist International of Marysville, Yuba City. I'm proud to be so. And here are some of our sisters, our teammates. And as president this year, I had the opportunity to conduct a president's appeal, and human trafficking was what we landed on. And Sandy was our chairwoman for this project, and she had a remarkable idea, a remarkable support from our community was afforded, and I'd like for Sandy to tell you more.
All right, thank you, Michelle, for that introduction. I'm Sandy Drown, and I had the opportunity to serve as the chair. And so we first wanted to talk about human trafficking, and so we reached out to a lot of different people in the community. And the first person that we were able to land on was Detective Rounds from the Yuba City PD. And he kind of talked to us about human trafficking and the cases that he's dealing with. And so he said there was a huge need for backpacks for him, and he's lost that need because Restoration Railroad disbanded, I think, in a couple years ago. And so with that, we decided to do a backpack drive, and we were able to do 100 backpacks for him. I believe that will last for a year, so we just wanted to make sure that we present these to you. They're filled with lots of goodies, different sizes, but there are sweatpants, journals, blankets, lotion, all the necessities that you'll need for your efforts with human trafficking and taking care of those that need those in our community in Yuba City. So just wanted to present that to you, and thank you for letting us be able to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, all you great representatives of the Seroptimists, for all the good work you do in our community. Our next item is a proclamation in recognition of A Grateful Nation Remembers. Over the last few days, Pastor Ciociola and his crew have continued to produce a very meaningful, I guess it would be a tribute and an honor to that coincides with Memorial Day. So if the council could join me up front, I have a proclamation on our behalf to present to Pastor Ciociola. Okay, please welcome Pastor Michael Ciociola. I see he brought some of his people with him as well. Whereas on Memorial Day, we pause in solemn gratitude to pay tribute to the brave patriots who laid down their lives defending peace and freedom while in military service to our great nation. We set aside this day to honor their sacrifice, remind all Americans of the tremendous price of our precious liberty. In 1992, Michael A. Ciociola, lead pastor at Calvary Christian Center, began Memorial Day ceremonies to provide his congregation and our community an avenue to pay honor and tribute to veterans and military personnel who have paid the price for freedoms we as Americans enjoy today. Calvary Christian Center members provide set design, construction, and actors. Over 200 church members participate in the ceremonies. Many Beale Air Force Base airmen volunteer for the construction and community assistance for the Freedom Heroes Outdoor Memorial, train medical reenactors, and erect the Alaskan tent for the Afghanistan Field Hospital. The memorial display has developed throughout the years, capturing the tributes and dedications of our great fallen heroes. 1994, Vietnam Wall, consisting of 3 panels. 1995, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was added. 1996, Vietnam Bearcat Field Hospital was added, 2 panels added to the Vietnam Wall. 2001, present 6-panel Vietnam Wall constructed. 2002, 9/11 tribute added for the firemen in the Twin Towers. 2003, War on Terror tribute, tumbling of the Saddam Hussein statue. 2004, War on Terror tribute, honor current military personnel. 2005, War on Terror tribute, Iraqi voters, the moving wall on display. 2006, War on Terror tribute, salute to the fallen, Freedom's Hero War on Terror memorial constructed in the East Park area. And there's more. 2007, tribute at Arlington, 4 panels added to the Freedom's Heroes Memorial. 2008, to present, panels added annually as needed. As of 2021, a total of 21 panels. 2015, an Afghanistan Field Hospital added. Yuba City citizens and Americans throughout the United States live in the freedom because of the sacrifices made by those who have served and by those who continue to serve. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, Mark Boomgarden, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of our entire City Council, do hereby recognize A Grateful Nation Remembers and Michael Ciociola for their contributions to create this exhibit for all of our community to come and pay their respects for those fallen soldiers on Memorial Day. And I might add, there's people coming from across the United States. It's not just our community. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pastor, we can't say thank you enough as a veteran. And I'm trying not to do this, but I lost my father a few weeks ago. And he served in Vietnam. And there's a lot of healing that went on at these services because our Vietnam vets came home, not to such a great welcome. And it wasn't what we had when I served in Desert Storm. So to you, congregation that's here, to my council for honoring my request to honor you, thank you so much, sir, for everything you do.
An honor to serve those who serve us. Those, of course, that we memorialize every year at Memorial Day weekend. It's far more than just a long weekend. It's a time to be grateful and remember freedom is not free. It's also a time to recognize the fact that people are still vigilant in protecting us and watching out for us every single day. We get to do what we're doing in this room. We can debate, we can talk about issues, we can pass resolutions, make policy, all because we're a free people, because of those people who are willing to stand on that line and protect the right for every citizen to do what you're doing here tonight. I want to thank the City Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and all of you, but I would be remiss to not mention the fact that this is not something I do by myself. My wife and I had a dream to do this many years ago. She is the daughter of a World War II veteran who saw action in the South Pacific and things he didn't want to talk about when he came home. My daughter, who has traveled the world, working with the Billy Graham Association, she's an audio specialist. I've got a great technician to help me with things that are very important to do today. My son, who's my senior associate, Michael, Pastor Michael, and he's got creative abilities and skills to put pen to paper and make those things that we do on Memorial Day weekend come to life, absolutely live among us. My daughter-in-law, and they're all here. Some of them are here. My daughter didn't make it up, but most of them are. My daughter-in-law, whose father was a full bird colonel in the United States Air Force, retired, and he was the driving force behind Global Hawk, which is stationed right out here at Beale Air Force Base. When we first came to Yuba City, California, it had been my desire for many, many years to interface with our military as best we could. And lo and behold, we have one of the greatest military bases in America right here in our backyard. They're family to us. We should always treat them with honor and respect and be appreciative of all that they're doing to make sure we remain safe in the United States of America. So in addition to my family and those that are around us in my office and the team that we have assembled that are all in making good things happen, over 200 volunteers that are out there in this heat sweating and taking things apart and putting them back. I have to pay tribute to all the people that make this possible, to a church board that says, we stand with you and we'll help you fulfill the mission that God's called you to fulfill. So once again, thanks to the team. And if anyone deserves a round of applause, it's the team that deserves that, because it would never happen without people helping us. So take a moment and say thanks to them, because they're fantastic people.
Before we take a picture, I know you have some other ceremonies coming up. I heard about those yesterday. Would you mind sharing those with us?
Sure. For those of you that love our Constitution and have taken time to read what it says about your liberties and freedoms, for those of you that might understand that the bedrock of America is our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, and those founders that used biblical principles to put together the greatest and freest nation on this planet. This coming 4th of July, just prior to that, the Sunday before that, we're having Rick Green from Wall Builders out of Texas. He's a constitutional expert. If you've got any questions about the Constitution and what our founders intended, you will have them answered at that meeting on that Sunday at 10 a.m. And then later in the year, going into September, this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And the Sunday before 9/11, we are going to be taking the time to commemorate that turning point in America's history. We will be honoring our law enforcement, our fire department, our EMT folk, the people who serve us in our local community every single day and night. And I'm bringing out to speak and share his story Stanley Pramath. Stanley is one of only 4 who survived above the strike zone in Tower 1 when those towers were hit and collapsed. He's got a story that literally will spellbind you when you hear him tell how God protected him when that tower fell. It's an amazing testament to what God can do and the goodness of God in people's lives. So you might want to mark those times and think about being a part of those ceremonies.
Thank you for that, Pastor C. Now the photo op. All right. Linda and Tim McKenna, could you join us, please? Linda and Tim McKenna. Whereas in 2001, Linda McKenna's dream came true by opening Linda's Soda Bar and Grill on Plymouth Street with only 5 employees. Her dream quickly gained popularity, and there was a constant line to secure a table at the famous downtown diner, known for her wonderful desserts and homemade meals that remind you of home. They are wonderful. In 2008, there was a strong need to expand the business, as the popularity of the diner was the place to have a home-cooked meal. Linda and Tim McKenna took on the task, and the expansion was made. Diamond-cut sheeting, yellow bar stools, chrome accents, black and white checker flooring, Pepsi signs, and collectibles adorn the walls. Some Wizard of Oz collectibles as well, along with a tribute wall to the veterans in the community featuring photos of individuals who served our country. Linda's Soda Bar and Grill endured the Plymouth streetscape. That was quite a deal. Where the street and sidewalk were under construction just outside their front door. That didn't stop Linda and Tim. They would open their door to the large construction trucks and deliver them a meal while the faithful patrons entered the premises through the back door, and they supported many community events along with countless donations to schools, charities, and others. They also volunteered their time with the Downtown Business Association Board. Now, 20 years later, with 15 employees, Linda and Tim have decided to retire and hand over the reins to a new owner that will continue their legacy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mark Boomgarden, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby congratulate Linda and Tim McKenna on their retirement as of July 1, 2021, and wish them the very best and thank them for being strong community members for the last 20 years. Congratulations on your retirement.
Okay, so on behalf of the Downtown Business Association, as your president, I think we've got some of our board members in the audience. We just wanted to add our deepest appreciation. We hereby honor Linda and Tim McKenna with this award in recognition for your many years of visionary guidance, extraordinary leadership, and the conditional commitment, serving as a member of the Yuba City Downtown Business Association from 2001 to 2021. So thank you.
Good evening. I've been told I have 3 minutes, so somebody set the clock. We both want to thank everybody, especially the city council. It's very generous, it's unexpected, and we appreciate it. The things that Yuba City City Councils have done for Plymouth Street over the years are enormous. It's benefited us. It's benefited a lot of people downtown. We appreciate it. We want to thank our employees, our family and friends, and most especially, Linda has always said, and I can't argue the point, she has the best customers in the world, or none. So thank you to everyone. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right, do I have Sean Adams, and I hope I get this name right, Amaya? I did? Amaya Scanlon, please. Whereas the City of Yuba City cherishes the value and the dignity of each person and appreciates the importance of equality and freedom, and all are welcome in the Yuba City to live, work, play, and every family in any shape deserves a place to call home where they are safe, happy, and supported by friends and neighbors. And Yuba City is committed to being inclusive and welcoming of all, regardless of their sexual orientation, and recognizes that we are a diverse community enriched by this diversity, including those that are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer or questioning. And we stand together with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer or questioning community as they declare their pride in who they are and whom they love. And everyone should be able to live without fear of prejudice, discrimination, violence, and hatred based race, religion, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mark Boomgarden, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim June Pride Month 2021 and urge all residents to respect and honor our diverse community and celebrate and build a culture of inclusiveness and acceptance. John?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City of Yuba City Council and everyone in this room. We greatly appreciate you guys being here to support our community. Being a lifelong resident, born and raised right here in town myself, we've definitely had our troubled times in the beginning, but I do hope that the future will bring us better prosperity. Something that Tri-County Diversity, our organization, would like to do is provide you in the city with a progressive pride flag to be able to display somewhere. So we do want to say thank you so much for your time and your devotion to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have something to drop by this week. Awesome. Appreciate you guys. How are you doing? But I just stop by. I have something. Okay. You need to meet the police. Good to see you. Get something for your dad's. Cool. Yeah, we'll be there. Thank you.
All right. Next up on our agenda, if we better get those doors closed, Brian. Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you. Next up on our agenda is a presentation by our Yuba Sutter Arts. Presentation would be by David Reed, who's our Executive Director of Yuba Sutter Arts and Culture. Mr. Reed.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Members of the council, staff, and members of the public. Am I on? I should know this from the Sutter County presentation. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, and members of the public. Thanks for, I'm glad I get to be the closing act. What a bunch of incredible proclamations. But my goal here is to, I think most of you probably have heard of the Yuba Sutter Arts Council. We're actually Yuba Sutter Arts and Culture now. Some of what we do is not retail per se, but we've got a lot of exciting things going on, things we've been doing for years, some new things, new adventures. So bear with me. We're going to whip through this very quickly, as I've promised. And let me maybe expand a little bit on what you may know about us. We want to change the way and challenge the way you think about art in all of its many forms. We've got an incredible board of directors, very supportive of what we do, what our staff does, and we really appreciate that. This is our 40-year anniversary. We are the local affiliate of the California Arts Council, and that's a great thing because it opens up a certain amount of funding for us from the state each year. We're the only two-county arts agency in the state. Of 58 counties, 54 are represented by one of our sister organizations. We provide services, just like we've collaborated with Yuba City over the years on the utility box mural project, or the city of Live Oak with all the large wall murals that we've done up there. We provide support services for artists trying to make a career out of, or at least provide supplemental income. We put on a lot of events. We have a lot of different portfolios that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail. As I said, our 40-year anniversary, pretty exciting. One of the great examples are our arts and education programs. We, for example, work with Yuba City High and River Valley High, and in a typical year, host gallery exhibits for the students. Get them outside the school environment into a kind of a public setting. We've had a lot of local submissions for the Congressional Art Competition each year, including some who have wound up winning and with their artwork being sent back to Washington, D.C. The Poetry Out Loud programs, the National Poetry Recitation Program, we get tremendous support from the Yuba City high schools and Sutter, I should say. Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, we do this in collaboration with Jessica at the Sutter County Museum. This is original creative writing and original artwork that students submit for regional and national adjudication. And scholarship money. Very special arts we couldn't do last year or this year, but it's a tremendous program. We go into the classrooms during the school semester for the special education students, and then have a big one-day celebration and get a lot of support from the community as the students display their artwork and skits and little musical events that they put on. Our collaboration with Yuba College is equally deep and long-lasting with student art shows. In fact, we had our first event of the year 2 weeks ago with a senior art class gallery opening and reception. We do a teacher appreciation event each year and hand out an Arts Educator of the Year award, again, to show our respect for our local arts educators. We've done a lot around the veterans in the arts project, had a lot of things like our portraits of veterans. You see samples hanging on the wall, bronze casting portraits of veterans. Mr. Dosher and his son participated in the bronze project, which was, how often do you get to play with bronze? It was pretty remarkable. These are some more of our portraits of veterans. We created the Veterans Art Park in Marysville, veterans who were supported by professional mural artists who created these different panels. As long as they still have the B Street property, those murals will remain. Veteran ceramics projects. We did 6 or 7 sessions with master ceramist Chris Thompson. He's the fellow in the background there with a long beard. He's a pretty remarkable ceramic artist and U.S. Air Force veteran. The murals of Live Oak, you may have seen some of those. They're getting ready to renew that contract. I'll be up with them in 2 weeks. An amazing outdoor art collection, if you will. Did the Mural Marathon in 2018, turning the old Sonny's Market into a destination. People gather there for photo ops in front of those 5 murals. The utility boxes you all know well. That was the one across from Yuba City High School. Student designed it, and with the participation and support of the department, including Pam Novak, the head of the art department at Yuba City High School. We've got youth choir programs, youth performing arts programs. We collaborate with our friends, Amaya and Sean, with Tri-County Diversity, under normal circumstances, screening films for the youth in the community to come out and experience in a safe setting. And once we get our theater open again, we'll see what happens on June 15th, and if we can open up, we'll resume that program, so stay tuned. Celebration of Souls, one of many cultural types of events that we do. It's our Day of the Dead event, Dia de los Muertos. We started at the mall a few years ago. It's kind of morphed, and now a number of these kinds of events occur each year. But it's a great celebration of that aspect of Latinx culture. We've done world music programs, Phoenix Drum and Dance from Sacramento, Irish music, flamenco music, lots more to come. For the love of Frida, Frida Kahlo, she's so iconic, and it's so fun to do an event sort of focusing on her artwork. And Leela Rivera, one of our local artists, is just a great curator of that event each year. We bring out folklorico dancers and just really put on a show. Harvest the Arts is our big fundraiser each year. Probably not going to happen this year, but John Heyer has been a great host for us for many years. If you've ever been, it's just a beautiful outdoor celebration of art and food and live music, and we just absolutely love it. We've done art crawls on Plumas Street. We've gotten grants to take students on field trips. This was actually January of last year was the last one where we took 45 students from Yuba City High School to Los Angeles on a 3-day, 2-night trip to visit the Getty Museums in LA, again, under the leadership of Pam Novak. We got shut down, so scheduled trips to San Francisco and Sacramento were put on hold, but if we can get back in the fall, then we'll get those rescheduled and take some more students to have a real art museum experience. Our Jump Starts grant, this is for at-risk youth, system-engaged youth, everything from juvenile hall to Albert Powell and Feather River Academy, taking poets, ceramic artists, visual artists, Phoenix Drum and Dance, seeing a bunch of kids at Camp Singer sitting around in a circle doing African drumming and dancing was really kind of amazing. And Marcelo Hernandez Castillo is a local, nationally known poet. In fact, he's got the same agent as our national poet laureate, Joey Harjo. He's moving on up. He's had some tremendous, very successful books, and he's been the absolute rock star. He goes into the toughest environments, and for some reason, somehow he communicates with these young people that have had such a tough time, and they write this amazing poetry. So he's He's a special person. These are some of the student-designed and created murals we've done at Albert Powell, Feather River Academy, all part of that Jump Starts grant. We're getting more and more into kind of art and history sorts of projects. This was a state library grant that helped us create the Arboga Assembly Center, Memorial Park, just south of Marysville, where Japanese Americans were held prior to being sent to the permanent internment camps. We've done that big mural as part of the grant. That's 125 feet long at the Buddhist church in Marysville. Womannequins, that was really the only live event we did last year. These womannequins were decorated, designed by groups and individuals in commemoration of the enactment of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Russ Zollo, the new owner of the Tea Garden House, was just a great partner, and he was struggling like many of us were with live events being canceled, but we used his front lawn and kept everybody safe and distanced. We went virtual last year. We really didn't have a choice, so we created a lot of virtual programming, bi-weekly interview shows. I just got off one before I ran over here with an amazing artist educator from Chico State. And the neat thing about it, what we've learned is that you do that program at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. Not many people are going to be able to watch it, but it lives forever after on Facebook and our YouTube channel. We've built up this library of these interviews and conversations with people, and it's really something that will continue in some form going forward even after we fully reopen. We put out a monthly postcard with all of our upcoming events. We try to communicate with people in whatever form they like. You want snail mail? We've got it. You want email, e-newsletters like the one we just sent out today, which recaps not just our events, but we got a big umbrella or big tent, and we encourage local organizations to give us their flyers, arts and culture related, and that all goes out. We've got almost 6,000 subscribers now to our monthly newsletter. We produced 2 virtual student musicals last year that just tremendous success. Kids had a great experience. They were filmed individually, and you put it all together, and it's not that you don't know that's how we did it, but it was a great experience for them. We've got 5 studios at our Calacara Art Studio complex just off Plymouth Street in Yuba City. That's been a big success, part of our art mentorship program. Got a guy that makes dinosaurs, animatronic dinosaurs. That's another presentation. This is really exciting. We also got a grant, and we're working with the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement. We're going to create a high school mariachi orchestra program by county, working out the details. We got the money. That's a good place to start. Got to know where we're going to get the instruments. Now we're out trying to find interested students. So if you know any high school age students with an interest in learning this particular type of music, please send them our way. How about a film festival? Short film festival. I've made it a point not to mention it too many times, but Councilmember Harris is, this was his idea. So we're excited about this. Short films, 10, 12 minutes. We're all filmmakers. We've got iPhones. Go make a video, submit it. The only real restriction is family friendly, of course, but also it's got to have been, principal photography has to have been done in Yuba or Sutter counties. So we're trying to keep it local. If you're from out of state and you want to make one about us, great, come on down. We'll have a big party October 2nd with screenings of all the contestants, and we got some prize money to hand out. For years, we've collaborated with the Sutter Performing, this is the big punchline here, Sutter Performing Arts Association with joint fundraisers to help the redevelopment of the Sutter Theater on Plymouth Street. And we pumped a lot of gold into that project, like so many other people did. And it wasn't because of this, but they came to us about a year ago and said, hey, we built this thing. It's about to be finished. What are we going to do with it? We know how to raise money and do the construction, but now what? And the now what was, how does Yuba Sutter Arts and Culture feel about taking this treasure over and starting to program it? And we said, okay. And so it took some time to work out the details, but coming soon, you're going to see events happening at the Sutter Theater Center for the Arts. That's how we've rebranded it. We're having a big kind of open house on June 25th, 5 to 7. If you haven't been in a while, come in, because it's the front half, the main black box theater is done. So it's a beautiful, beautiful center that'll just knock your socks off. Those are some of the things we're thinking about doing, and we're pretty excited. So we're asking for additional financial support. The $10,000 is not arbitrary. That will give us 12 months of it kind of covers the nut. You know, our staff is covered by the California Arts Council. That amount of money will cover the utilities, insurance for the Sutter Theater until we get up and running. We're going to have to find grant money to fund it, to sustain it. We're not going to make it on the ticket sales. Theaters don't work that way. But it'll become such a community center that I think it'll certainly help offset some of the costs going forward. But we have a huge fundraising task with the back half theater. There's another full theater back there, and I know many of you have seen it. And we'll be working on that. But we've got a viable performing arts space in the front half and a beautiful lobby. We'll have a full bar, concession stand, and of course the theater art gallery. So, and let me say that we very much appreciate years of support from the city of Yuba City in terms of waiving various fees and permit fees and what have you. And we owe you big time. So we're certainly aware of that. So whenever you need a meeting space or a party place, just let us know. We'll be absolutely delighted to host. Continue to recognize and nurturing the arts and see it as a real component of economic development, along with all the other great things going on in the community. So, if you do social media, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're pretty active on all of those. If nothing else, go to our website once in a while, yubacetterarts.org. You can sign up for our monthly e-newsletter. We won't bomb you with a bunch of stuff. But you'll kind of know what's going on, both within Yuba Center Arts and Culture, but also other arts organizations, the Acting Company, the Yuba Center Oratorio Society, the Master Chorale, all of those other great organizations. So, thank you very much. How'd I do? Close.
You did well.
I've been practicing. This is my 4th in 3 weeks, I think. Thank you so much.
Would you mind, perhaps, any questions from the council or comments?
I have no questions, of course, but David, I just want to thank you and Abby and the entire crew over there for the hard work you do. I think you have to start sending out a bigger postcard. There's so much stuff going on, you can't cram it all in one spot, and it's wonderful, and it's one of my favorite boards that I'm on over there because everything is good. Everything is happy. Everything is making the community special and helping us stand out and involving community members at a different level other than just attending something, right? So I appreciate that. I also appreciate how every time I've came to you with an idea or a thought or anything, the answer is always yes.
You got great ideas.
And, well, I don't know if my ex-wife would agree with that, but anyway, my point is, thank you. Everything you guys do, your attitude, your can-do, and the diversity of everything you bring, from kids finger painting all the way up to adults singing opera or whatever, and everything in between, right? And the history and the significance in bringing awareness to some of the things that happen in our community, and it's just great. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Through the mayor. David, thank you. Again, echo what Sean said. I learned so much about you guys the year that I served as the alternate on your board. One real quick question. I know we spoke several months ago. Have you guys finalized your fundraising efforts? Because I know my wife and I have been waiting on that information to see about partnering with you guys.
Yep, absolutely. You're top of the list. And now that we have a date when we know the transference is actually going to happen, it was kind of, back and forth that they need another month. It's in development right now, and you'll receive it likely in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you for being the person that takes Sean's ideas. That way we don't have to. But no, I'm kidding.
Oh.
It's a police
I think that's a compliment.
I got a lot of fire guys back here for backup. I'm okay today. No, I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing in the community. I think, your ability to obtain grant funding seems very, very, at a very high level, which is awesome. I'm a little disappointed to hear that the Harvest for the Arts might not happen, but maybe, that we can get that one going again. I think that's, as you mentioned, is a great community event. But looking forward to attending on the 25th when they pass the keys and keep up the great work.
Great. Thanks so much.
Through the mayor.
Sorry.
Dave,
All right, great.
David and Abby, We are so, you're a treasure to our community. Without your vision, your work, none of this would have been where we're at now. So I just want to thank you for that, because now we have actual culture and arts beyond what I've seen in the last 10 years. So thank you so much for doing that. I think I'm glad that Councilman Harris is on board and really, truly loves his role in that particular board. I do question some of the ideas that he has sometimes, but he's a great guy in the Arts and Board Council. He does some really neat stuff there. I do have to agree with that. Now, you're asking us for $10,000? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I didn't hear anyone else bring that up. So that's all you need at this point? I mean,
You're asking the wrong guy, Grace.
It's not on the agenda for a decision tonight, so
Right.
that's
No,
why
it's-
we can.
of course it's not. I was just,
It's budget time, right?
budget
Yeah.
time, so you're going around asking, well, then maybe you should submit a formal request and consider what you fully need for the full year. It's part of our quality of life, as you mentioned on your presentation, and I fully agree that all of those things that you reached out to so much of our community, and sometimes our community has no idea that it really is being ran mostly by maybe 3-4 people, which is 3 people, right? Pretty efficient and amazing. So I love every piece that you do. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks again.
Thanks so much.
All right. Item number 6, which is COVID-19, discussion and action on the measures to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. This will be presented by Dave Vaughn. He's our city manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Wanted to update the council on a couple of activities. Ben Moody and his department are bringing forward an ordinance through our planning commission for outdoor dining. That will go through, that'll go through planning commission in June, and we'll be here in front of council sometime in July. Then once that happens, then we will take the next steps necessary to rescind the emergency declaration. However, the first step is getting the outdoor dining squared away, as we've been talking about, and his team's been working diligently on that. And so we look forward to bringing that forward to you in the first meeting or second meeting in July. I want to say that before Ben threw something at me.
Any questions for Mr. Vaughn? Okay, seeing none, do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak on this item?
Good evening. My name is Thomas Burns. I want to speak on the COVID-19 program. And it's quite interesting to me to watch the media blitz. And you can't even listen to the radio in your car anymore without being bombarded with it. On how we all need to take this vaccine and how wonderful it is to us, and how it's going to give us freedom back, stolen freedom back. Yeah, how about that? So that's my thoughts on the matter. I see the narrative has switched in the propaganda machine lately. And now, if you don't get the vaccine, you're public enemy number 1. You're a detriment to the rest of society. So, is this the America we live in? It's not the one I remember growing up in. So I'm opposed to their propaganda machine. I'm opposed to the government funding it. And I'm just flat out opposed to it. I'm not taking no vaccine. And I do recall this narrative that was very popular in America. And see if you remember it. My body, my choice. Huh? Oh, what about that? So very interesting dynamic we got going on here. And I'm going on the record that I oppose it wholeheartedly. Okay? And I don't like being put in the position that you or those of us that won't be vaccinated, if you can even call it a vaccine, are detrimental to society. So that's the narrative being pushed. I see it every day. I hear it constantly, a constant bombardment. So I'm going on the record to speak against the propaganda machine. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Courtney.
Hi, good evening. I might have missed you explaining the ordinance in one of the past meetings. I was hoping you could give a little bit more elaboration about what exactly the ordinance would do with outdoor dining.
So currently, we provide outdoor dining as part of the, as an impact that was related to the COVID pandemic. And so in order to make sure we can maintain that, the city needs to change its ordinances so that our restaurants can do outside dining under a current ordinance, not under an emergency declaration. So we're changing the ordinance so they'll be able to do that full time.
So they'll do that not in the emergency, but in ordinary.
Full time, yes.
Why would you do that though? If there's no emergency, why can't they serve their customers inside? And Sutter County lifted their.
They can serve them inside, but we're going to allow them the opportunity to serve outside as well. There's no ordinance that allows them to have outdoor dining under the current ordinance situation. So we're changing that so they can do either inside or outdoor dining for the future.
Just for clarification, in the past, was the ordinance put in place because of the environmental conditions in this area?
There was no ordinance. The ordinance did not contemplate outdoor dining. Yeah, it didn't contemplate it.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why we're adding it.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate
The question.
Anyone else in the audience on this subject? Sierra?
No public comment.
All right. I'm going to move to, thank you, Mr. Vaughn. I'm going to move to item number 7, appearance of interested citizens. Due to COVID-19, residents are encouraged to attend the city council meeting via web conference or submit comments by email. Consistent with the public health guidelines for social distancing, limited seating is available in our council chambers. If an attendee does not have a facial covering, one can be provided. Comments may be made either at the council chamber podium. Please participate via web conference or email if you are ill or have been exposed to COVID-19. Do we have anybody who would like to speak to us this evening? Sure.
Sorry, I filled this out late. I didn't want to interrupt. The great presentation about the arts and culture that we were listening to. And in light of that, just getting so excited for our community to come back to life after what's felt like a really long time of just laying dormant. I did want to address you all about possible just a proactive step to mitigate discrimination in our community. I'm sure you guys are aware that there is legislation throughout different states and different cities talking about certain papers or documents that would prove vaccination to different entities, whether that's businesses, whether that's government offices, whether that's festivals or sporting events, that these certain types of passports that would show vaccination records, that these are being implemented to make people feel secure and safe, when in reality, this is just extreme discrimination on a really big level. And I was hoping that maybe this board might think about creating an ordinance here in Yuba City that would prohibit any such type of vehicle, any such type of vaccine passport to exist here within Yuba City. That we can't really control what happens in Sacramento, but here in Yuba City, we don't have to tolerate that kind of discrimination. So I was hoping that you all might be up for putting that on the agenda to discuss an ordinance against vaccine passports here within the city. Is that something you guys might be available to do?
I don't think it's something that we couldn't do. I just don't know that there's anything that currently exists that requires anyone to get a vaccination, and I don't contemplate anything happening within our city coming from this policymaking board. Now, there may be other entities within the city that operate outside of our control that may have those intentions, but we do not. And if we don't control them, no matter what we do, as far as an ordinance or at least some sort of a legal requirement, I'm not sure that ours would be enforceable.
Well, an example would be certain businesses that have store policy that you must show a vaccine passport to enter, or for example, festivals that might take place within Yuba City that would allow for a vaccine passport. Those would not allow for that to happen within our city.
Well, again, and I've mentioned this before, this is at its fundamental piece, a rights issue, right? If I'm a business owner, I may have the right to run the business the way I want to, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. If I want to require someone to do something and it's not currently against the law, then perhaps I have the right to do that. I'm not sure if we would legally be able to say to a business owner, and I'll just use Walmart because it's been mentioned in this council chambers before, they have a corporate policy that requires the wearing of masks. I don't know that I as a city can tell them that that's illegal. I mean, they have a right to operate their business the way they want to operate it. I may not agree with it, but I don't have the right as a city council person, nor do I believe any of us have the right to tell them how to operate their business as it relates to wearing masks. That being said, we can certainly have counsel with our legal attorney and find out if that is something that's even permissible for us to do, and we will do that.
That would be great. I'd love to be able to follow up with you guys on that and see if it's possible.
Okay.
Thank you. Jeff Holtzman.
Sorry?
Should I go talk to, get somebody?
No, I think you gave us plenty of direction. We know what you want.
Okay, and give my email?
I have your email.
Thank you.
All right.
So I want to reiterate too, the same program as she just talked about. And if you're not savvy to it, then I think your head must be in the sand, or you're not, paying attention to your current events around you. But as far as I'm concerned, they're saying that if you're not vaccinated, you can't go to a concert. If you're not vaccinated, you can't take a cruise. If you're not vaccinated, you can't shop in this store. If you're not vaccinated, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. So I think the council is going to have to take a stand, really, on the issue, because we're having a segregation program going on. So is segregation permissible in America, whether it's private business or public business? Is the private sector doing the dirty work for the public sector? Right? These are the questions, and I think it is a hot button issue and very, very critical. So, because I don't like living in America and being segregated and fingered and put to the side. Matter of fact, I just won't tolerate it. So that's the way I feel about it. But I believe that this council will have to take a stand and decide what kind of discrimination that we're going to allow in this city. So, and I believe it is critical to your position. And I want to thank Grace for having such a big checkbook of the people's money.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Staff, I think you have enough information for us to do a little background. Thank you. Anybody else from the? Anybody online?
No public comment.
All right. We'll move to our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that the council votes on the motion unless members of the city council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on any of the items on the consent calendar? If so, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Anybody from the audience? Anybody online?
No public comment.
Any of us?
Through the mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve consent items 8, 9, and 10.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by the Vice Mayor, a second by Councilperson Espandola to approve the consent calendar items 8, 9, and 10. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent calendar is approved unanimously. Moving to item 11, proposed water and wastewater rates for fiscal year 2021-2022. This will be presented by Ms. Diana Langley, our Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm back before you again for the second time to discuss the water and wastewater utility rates. So the purpose of rates is to ensure adequate revenues in the water and wastewater enterprise funds to cover operation and maintenance, debt service coverage, and capital projects. For some background, in April of 2016, Council adopted the water and wastewater rate study, and then in June of 2016, Council adopted water and wastewater ordinances that provide for council review of rates on an annual basis as part of the fiscal year budget review process, which occurred last Tuesday. And then council retains the authority to set rates by resolution. I just want to note back in April of 2016, when council adopted the water and wastewater rate study, it proposed adjustments to the city's rates through fiscal year 2021. However, because council did not adopt rates that exceeded the amount approved through the Proposition 218 process, there's still some capacity to increase the rates. And so I'm before you tonight to present a recommendation for rate increases. So as I noted, even though the water and wastewater rate study is only contemplated through fiscal year 2021, since you adopted rates less than those approved, there's still the ability to increase rates beyond 2021. So in 2019, we completed the Water Master Plan, in which we evaluated improvements necessary to address our existing infrastructure as well as improvements necessary to provide for new development. Just to serve existing infrastructure, and there's a table here that shows the type of facility, the capital costs, and then it's in millions of dollars, and it's broken into 5-year timeframes. So you can see that in the 6 to 10 and 11 to 15, we're recommending funding for supply improvements. We also have low lift pump station, which is our intake structure, the water treatment plant, booster pump stations and tanks, which are the large tanks out in the distribution system, and then pipelines. We have over 200 miles of pipelines that we need to maintain, including pipelines that are about approximately 100 years old that date back to the 1920s, and that's in the older part of town. Those are 3-inch galvanized pipelines that are in need of repair. So when you look at this, in the first 1 to 5 years, you have a total of $36.4 million, 6 to 10 years, $27.1 million, 11 to 15 years, $22.6 million, and 16 to 20 years, $19 million. Now, there's no way that staff kids itself that the council is going to adopt rates that are going to raise those types of funds. And so we do have a realistic approach in terms of what we can do. So with that, I'm recommending proposed water rate increase of 5% each year for the next 3 years. And so on this table, you have the meter size, of which 1 inch is typically the size serving residential properties, the baseline usage that's allowed in this rate, the current rate, the 5% increase for fiscal year 21-22, 5% increase for fiscal year 22-23, 5% increase for 23-24. And you can see that even with those increases, we're still below the Prop 218 approved amount. So if council were to move forward with increasing these rates, here's the estimated fiscal impact. And so our anticipated revenues under current rates for fiscal year 21-22 would be about $16 million, and then would increase slightly from there. With the water rate increases of 5%, this is the anticipated increase in revenues, so about $735 every 5%, and then it compounds. And so you get total revenues that go from $16.8 million up to $18.66 million. When you look at our operating expenses, that's about $8.6 million, increasing up to $9.3 million. And then we have existing debt service. So this is loans and bonds that we've sold in previous years to fund infrastructure. And so those total expenses range from $12.2 million up to $13 million. So the net revenues available under these proposed rate increases ranges from $4.5 million in fiscal year 21-22 up to $5.6 million in fiscal year 23-24. And if you recall, we've talked about this multiple times, but under our bond debt covenants, we have to maintain a debt coverage ratio of at least 1.2, and with these rate increases, we are well above that threshold. And when I say these net revenues available for reserves and projects, that's everything. That's all of these capital projects going back to this table. All of the capital projects, the increase in our reserves, that's everything. So to give you some historical and proposed water rate information, this is based upon a 1-inch water service. Going back to October 2006, we were at $16.62. There was a period of time when we did not have a rate study in effect, and so it stayed stagnant at $17.36. In 2011, Council adopted a rate study in which we increased rates over the following 5 years. In 2016, again, Council adopted a new rate study in which we increased rates up through July 1st, 2018, and then rates have not been increased since then. So they've stayed stagnant at $35.84. And so with these proposed improvements, it would bump us up to $41.49 over the next 3 years. To give you a comparison, we have Live Oak here at the low end, Rockland here at the high end. That ranges from $25.38 all the way up to $114.92. Yuba City Current is the gold. The fiscal year 21-22 is this blue column. Here's 22-23, 23-24, and this is our Prop 218. So even with these rate increases, we're still significantly below these other agencies, and this table does not, or this chart does not take into account rate increases that those other agencies will be implementing over the next 3 years either. So with that, any questions related to water before I move on to wastewater?
Would you just do me the pleasure of just those that will have higher rates than the city of Yuba City, just if you would mention the names of those cities?
Sure. So I'm going to go all the way out to past fiscal year 23-24. So Gridley, Lodi, Sacramento, Chico, Roseville, Turlock, Redding, West Sacramento, Davis, Marysville, which is actually Cal Water, Woodland, Orville, and then Rockland. Any other questions before I move on to wastewater? Okay. So similarly, we completed the wastewater master plan in 2020. And so here you can see the facilities that were contemplated include pipelines, lift stations, wastewater treatment facility improvements, the outfall diffuser and pipeline. And then this table breaks the capital cost over the next 20 years. So in the first 1 to 5 years, it's approximately $90 million. 6 to 10 years, $61.2 million, and then 11 to 20 years, $32.4 million. So in this first section of 1 to 5 years, a huge cost is this outfall diffuser and pipeline. And I know I've talked about this multiple times before, but our current outfall diffuser, due to changes in the Feather River, is out of the river the majority of the year. And per our permit, we're required to have a certain cover of water over that pipe in order for us to discharge from that pipeline. So what that means is that we have to discharge to our ponds. Well, our ponds are reaching capacity as well as their high maintenance. When we're discharging to the ponds, we have to go out and do testing on a regular basis and provide that to the state. We also have to go out and disc the ponds on a regular basis so that they'll continue to percolate. And so we are recommending that we replace this outfall diffuser and pipeline. And so the cost estimate, $35 million, is based upon a basically 30% design, of which there's a 50% contingency. So this is a really high-level number that we're moving forward with, recognizing that we will be completing the design over the next approximately year, and we'd be going into construction in the 2023-2024 timeframe. So staff is recommending proposed wastewater rate increases of 8% in fiscal year 21-22, 8% in 22-23, and then 5.6% in 23-24. And so this table shows the sewer rate schedule based upon use. Wastewater is different than water in that wastewater is a flat fee for residential uses. So for instance, on the single family, the current rate is $52.96. That's regardless of the amount of water that they use, versus the commercial is based upon their actual water usage. So they have this flat rate, plus they get a volumetric charge on top of that. And you can see that at the end of fiscal year 23-24, we're pretty close to the Prop 218 amount. This next table shows the impacts to the industrial customers and Incepted haulers. So again, same increases of 8%, 8%, and 5.6%. So the estimated fiscal impact, this one, you can see that our anticipated revenues under current rates is approximately $17 million. The anticipated revenues with these rate increases ranges from $1.29 million up to $3.8 million. And so our total revenues would go from about 18.3 up to almost 21 million. Operating expenses for wastewater are much higher than water, so range from about 12.5 million up to 13.3. And then again, we have existing debt service for loans and bonds that we are paying payments on an annual basis. So our total expenses range from about 16.2 up to 16.9. You can see on the wastewater side, even with these increases, the net revenues is still pretty minimal, ranging from 2.1 million up to 4 million. What's so important about this $4 million number is by the time we get to fiscal year 23-24, we need to sell bonds or get a low-interest loan to pay for that outfall diffuser. The payment on a $35 million loan with a 30-year term at 4% interest is about $2 million a year. So that one project will wipe out about half of those net revenues. And again, the debt coverage ratio, the minimum threshold is 1.2. You can see that we're getting close, even with this 8% increase, and then it starts to slowly increase as we continue to increase the rates. So looking at historical for the single-family dwelling rate, July of 2005 is $23.88. Again, it increased, and then you have a period where it stayed stagnant. 2011 rate study increased the rates. 2016 rate study, again, increased the rates. July 1st, 2018 was the last rate increase, and then it's held for the last 2 years since then. And then with these proposed rate increases, again, it gets us close to that Prop 218 approved amount. So where wastewater stands in comparison to other agencies, you have Chico down here at the low end, Live Oak here at the high end. Yuba City today is right here about in the middle. Here's fiscal year 21-22, fiscal year 22-23, and then fiscal year 23-24. And so at the end of that fiscal year 23-24, you have Live Oak that's here higher. Again, this chart does not reflect the rate increases that the other agencies will be implementing during that 3-year time frame. Also, when you combine the rates, the water and wastewater rates, it would put us about in the middle of all of these agencies. So for some comparison, for a single-family dwelling, for a current bill is $88.80. So with the water and sewer increases proposed, that bill would go to $94.83, so an increase of $6.03. Going all the way to fiscal year 23-24, the water bill would go up to $41.49, sewer $65.23, for a total bill of $106.72. So an increase from current would be $17.92. So the for an average single-family home, their bill would go from $88.80 up to that $106.72 in 3 years. Similarly, for a commercial account with a 2-inch water service and a C1 classification, which is considered a lower strength wastewater classification, their bill, current bill would be about $408.22. Under fiscal year 21-22, that would go to about $435.36, all the way up to $489.18 in fiscal year 23-24. So the next steps will be to bring resolutions to council on June 15th for adoption. The rates would then become effective July 1st of each of the years, so July 1st, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The rates would show up on the billing that's sent out at the end of July, and so customers would first see that rate increase in their late July billing, and it would apply to their June consumption, since we're always billing 1 month in arrears. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Ms. Langley? No questions from us? All right, any comments from anyone in the audience?
Hi, sorry, my name's Heather Esseman. I live on 2020 Lincoln Road, and I wasn't quite sure what the presentation was going to be. I should have looked at the packet. Sorry about that. I wanted to remind the community and the council that it's important to try to make those hard decisions on occasion. If you're not sure what could happen to a community in the area, you can look at the grand jury report from last year that showed about Live Oak and the fact that they weren't able to make those decisions, and now they're in hot water because they don't have enough money to be able to make those repairs that they need to have. So in the same instance here, even though she's being very generous as far as saying that we can go up to 5% or 8% so that it doesn't impact people that much, we definitely need more money than that. So I urge you to pass at least the 5% and the 8% for, and this does impact me because I'm actually, even though we're very close to the county border, we are within the city and I have sewer. So I'm more than willing to prepared to pay the extra 8% to make sure that we can see that everything that needs to get implemented is not waited on, but is implemented as soon as possible. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I wonder if it was factored in that, because I didn't see it in your presentation, that we're going to be, everybody's going to be pushed to reduce their water consumption. And then also a lot of, it didn't reflect the amount of usage that people, this is just your baseline bottom fee, right? It doesn't, because everybody in Yuba City pays for the amount of use. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. So for water, it is based upon actual usage. However, going back to that table that showed the baseline allocation that's allowed, as long as you don't exceed that baseline allocation, that is your rate for the water bill. And so 15 HCF, 1 HCF is 748 gallons. So 15 HCF for most residential customers would serve them at least 8 months out of the year for the most part. It allows for your indoor usage and then some outdoor irrigation. Once you get past that baseline allocation, then you pay a flow rate per excess HCF. And so that would be $1.90 per HCF. And so that would cover your water. Again, for sewer, the residential is a flat rate. However, non-residential is based upon actual water usage. And going back to the conversation about people using less water, there's two different aspects to that. There's one of the discussion related to a drought. As of right now, there's no mandate from the state in terms of conservation requirements. The Regional Water Authority has recommended a voluntary 10% reduction. As I mentioned before, going back to the previous drought, our customers continued to reduce their usage compared to 2013 levels, and so we've seen an ongoing reduction in water consumption. Separate from that is requirements from the state in the future to really limit the amount of water usage, basically a budget for the community. There's still a lot of work going into developing that budget, and for new residential, there are recommendations for the maximum allowed water, or trying to get to a max per capita usage for particularly indoor, and then also some for outdoor as well. So two very different paths that will potentially reduce water. But when it comes to our existing infrastructure and our existing rates, that's to serve the existing customers. For new development, like I said, there's a different estimate to build the infrastructure to serve that new development.
Other questions from the audience? Anybody online?
No public comment.
Okay. We'll bring this item back to the council.
Through the mayor, we discussed this, the presentation was given to us last week, I believe, and so the information is not new. So it seems, I'm glad that you consider this a need for our community, so I really appreciate your input on that. I think as a community, we've, held steady for those 3 years to try to help our community in the transition, but at this point, we have some major needs with our wastewater and water. In particular, serving on multiple regional water boards. The drought will affect us. Will that affect our bottom dollar in this change? We don't know until when those things are brought forward to us as customers pay and their own consumption of use of our services. So that's unclear, Mr. Burns, at this point. But I have nothing else to say at this moment. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Through the mayor. Ms. Langley, thank you for bringing this to us. Again, this is the third time we've seen it. And from everything I can see, the best way I can explain it is we're trying to put a Band-Aid on something that needs a tourniquet, because this doesn't go back 2 years. It doesn't go back 8 years. This goes back, as you said, the original pipes under downtown are about 100 years old. This has been deferment of maintenance has been kicked down the road for 100 years. So, and trust me, I know you guys are doing the best job that you guys can. So by no means did I mean that towards you and your team. You guys are doing a great job. But the question I have is, what is the end in summation of this game? Okay, looking as in, how are we going to pay for this? Because we're looking at, to use a word I heard earlier, de minimis returns, $2, $3, $4 million, and we see in 1 to 5 years we need basically $100 million between the two. And then if we go out and do bonds, that just increases our debt service. This is just kind of a spiraling ball that just continues to grow on us. And by no means do I want us to turn into a Flint, Michigan, because, they kept kicking theirs down the line. But where do we go? I mean, the governor has put out things for water programs, and how much of that, can we possibly get? I know you're looking at all options, and I know it's unfair, but I'm kind of asking, what's the crystal ball tell us for the next 20 years other than your retirement before then?
Way before then.
How are we going to do this? Because I'm looking at $200-300 million that's going to be added over 20 years. And there's de minimis growth coming over this. So what is our long-range funding mechanism for this?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not a question just for Yuba City. This is across the entire United States, because you've seen a lack of investment in infrastructure. And so there's a lot of discussions at the state level, at the federal level. And we always hear about programs coming across. A lot of times there's a lot of strings attached to those programs. However, we have been very successful in getting a lot of grants in the past. And that's something that we will continue to track. One of the things, the discussions that I'm hearing a lot about lately is increasing funds available to SRF loans, so state revolving fund loans. Those have low interest rates. And so we've also been successful in getting principal forgiveness loans through SRF. However, there's also always a match from the city, typically 50%. And so that's why we see there's a huge price tag associated with this. We will continue to watch. We do have a grant consultant that helps us. We also, as part of the RWA and other agencies, we see the grant programs that come across. I will say a lot of those programs seem to be focused on water reduction, water conservation, and what you can do to maximize the water that you have, not necessarily related to replacement of pipeline unless you can tie it to reducing your leaks, which we can to some extent. And so, I wish I did have a crystal ball or the magic answer for this, but I don't. And so, these are the rates that we can increase that are still within the Prop 218 amount. Within the next year, I will be issuing a request for proposals to get a consultant on board to evaluate the rates so that we do that next rate study, as well as reevaluate our connection fees, which is a separate topic that's similar and related to water and wastewater. And, it's doing maintaining the system to the best ability that we can, trying to spend the dollars in the most efficient and effective way that we can, and then also pursue grant opportunities and low-interest loans to the extent that we can. But like I said, going back to those tables that showed the dollar amount for the capital improvements, we recognize that we're not going to be able to get that amount of funds together, nor are many other agencies in California or the United States. And so, again, it's a nationwide infrastructure issue, not just Yuba City.
And that leads to the second part. It's amazing. You put water and sewer rates on an agenda, and if you're set on this council, your phone starts going off because it affects a lot of people. From my time on the RWA, found out all kinds of things that our hands get so tied because of the governor and the state legislature with, people that can't pay their water bills, but then you can't go and do certain things because it's not allowed, but yet we're still, providing service. So what have we thought? Have we looked at any of the ARP money? Have we looked at any of the governor's funding for water resources? How, if people can't, that are on fixed income, that are having a hard time as it is, I'm not talking about the people that just don't pay their water bill, but the people that honestly have a need, and they're struggling with $88, and now it's going to go to $90, and then it's going to go to $106. What do we have as far as assistance and funding that can possibly help them in the years to come? Because I equate this back to part of what we looked at with development impact fees. They were so high, we were getting 100% of zero, and we made that adjustment. Now we got growth going. So what's going to be there, or is it just going to be more on collectibles that are on our AR for utilities? So what's our safety net for those people?
Yeah, so right now we can't shut off customers for non-payment. However, finance is going to be sending letters out to customers that have not paid regarding placing liens against their property so that they pay the bills. Separate from that, there is a program through the state right now where renters can request assistance with their utility bills. And so I believe we have a link on our website. And I think you can get assistance through the Salvation Army to help with that application. So there's that program that's through the state. If council wanted to set aside either, part of the ARP funds to set aside a city-funded program to assist with utility bills, council could do that. You would also have the ability, let's say that COVID's not part of the picture, as part of the annual review of the CDBG program, I believe that you can set aside funds for assistance for people that qualify to assist them with their utility bills. Or you always have the option of putting general fund money out there. There are programs right now to help renters with their utility bills. I haven't seen something related to landlords assisting their renters with utility bills. And so there are options, because we do hear a lot about people on fixed income or people that are in tough times that can't pay those bills.
Thank you. Just my personal opinion, where I've been the last 2 years, I heard it when I was coming into office, everything was too high. I see the need, but I go back to just my gut. Can our residents afford it? It's not that we don't need it, but can they afford it? And that's a big part of what is at my gut. You guys do a great job, and I realize that we inherited a huge problem. But that's just my thoughts. I'm wondering how people are going to pay and what funding may come down that might help offset this in the future. And both of those, from everything I learned on the RWA and been around, is two completely unknown variables because our hands are tied. So, thank you.
Through the mayor.
Yep.
Thank you once again, Mrs. Langley, for a very thorough presentation. You're absolutely correct, though. This is part of a larger conversation about infrastructure. It's a big one. And I think we're doing the right thing by being proactive in an investment for our future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last but not least, right? Well, first and foremost, I think I want to acknowledge the work of the folks that are in sewer and water. having spent some time with them, I know they're doing a lot of work, innovative stuff on their own that's saving us quite a bit of money when it comes to repairs. And so to that, that kind of goes back into my fiscal conservativeness, if you will, in as much as we're trying to do as much as we can with what we have. And this is one of those items that's never easy to deal with as far as rates. Colleagues have mentioned, the ability to pay. I look at water and sewer provision as an essential service. No disrespect to fire, police, or anything else. I find it in the same thing. That's what cities were established to do. If we cannot, provide water or cannot, lack of a better term, flush the toilet, then I think we've failed at one of our primary missions. I think that the voters approved a rate back in 2000, or excuse me, when was it, Diana?
2016.
2016, in the 218. We have been conservative as a city council for the 2 years I've been on the council and not raising rates. And I think that, unfortunately, at this particular point in time, if we're going to keep the system operating, as our speaker earlier mentioned, I think we're going to have to step up and raise the rates. I don't see any other way to get by. I'm encouraged by the fact that our Public Works Department is probably, if not the best one, certainly in the top percentage in acquiring grants. I am continually interested in what these ARP funds are going to bring, and look forward to hearing that. I think we've spent that money about 10 times already, so we got to be careful there. But hopefully we can spend some money here. And if there are programs, and I think we are aware on the CDBG, there's some funding things that we can do for those who are struggling to pay the bills. So I stand in support of the rate increases. And I don't do that easily. And I would also mention, this isn't just a 15-minute presentation tonight. This has been a journey that our Public Works Director has led us through. So this is something that's really multi-year. It's not something that all of a sudden popped up. Now's the time. And I wish it was different, but I do believe it is time. So, action.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't look up that way.
For clarification for the public, on the issue of people that are not able to pay their bills, I kind of like to know, and I think the public deserves to know, how big of an issue that is. And then also clarification, because you stated that on new development that there was going to be some kind of a cap put on water usage for new development, and can you expound on that for the public?
Sure. So in terms of how much, I would have to ask Mr. Morrison if he recalls the dollar amount in terms of, I know it was close to $400,000, just under $400,000 in terms of outstanding bills that will, those customers will receive letters soon to let them know that they have a time frame to pay those bills, or they can choose to participate in a hearing to explain why they can't pay the bills. And if they can't, then their properties will be liened so that they... For 1 year? That is for 1 year, yes. Yes. So in regard to the other comment related to the cap for new development, it's not a hard cap where if you're over the 55 gallons per capita per day, we shut the water off. But through the design, as we've all seen, low flow toilets, low flow sinks, the changes to the landscaping requirements, the goal is to put those types of measures in place so that it naturally results in a lower per capita usage per day. And so newer development is expected to have a lower per capita usage than existing development, just because of the measures that are put in place to minimize water usage.
Courtney.
Sorry about that. I just figured I might as well say something. I was just wondering, is there any other alternative where we could possibly reallocate money from the budget to pay instead of increasing the rate for citizens? You know, am I crazy, or is all the money coming from people who live in in Yuba Sutter. And I mean, how many people have been out of work are already on government assistance? I don't think we need one more program to pay for a bill that people can't pay for. Why don't we just, move some money around a little bit to pay for infrastructure if we need so? I mean, I think the majority of people in government positions get paid upwards of 80 to 100 grand a year. I just don't see money being allocated properly to mitigate issues such as this. And so I just really see that being really tragic for the people in our community. I mean, it upsets me, and I get paid an okay wage, And so I think there's a lot of people who are going to need these government assistance programs, even just to pay this little increase or get a lien on their house. I mean, these are like fighting words. If there were more people listening to this, is there just nothing else we can do?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So water and sewer are basically they're called enterprise funds. In essence, they pay for their own, which is different than the general fund, which is police and fire and all the other stuff. Commingling those funds, there's a bit of that goes on through different people that are working in support of that. But in essence, these programs, they're supposed to pay their own way. So when we talk about getting grants and we talk about getting programs from the state, that's how we try to supplement that. I think Ms. Langley did mention we could take some general fund money and we could do an innovative program to help with rates. But I think if you pay attention to the next budget presentation, you'll find that our budget is pretty thin as it is, just providing those essential services. That's not going to make everybody happy, but I can assure you, as one who spent a lot of time on the ad hoc committee, along with others and with my colleagues, is we don't feel like we have a fluff budget by any means. We are balanced this year, and you'll see that in a little bit. But the long answer to your question is, yeah, we potentially could move some money around, but in reality, an enterprise fund such as water and sewer is supposed to pay its own way, and this is what it's trying to do by the rate increase.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Online?
No public comment.
Okay. Back to the council for action. Any other last questions for Ms. Langley? All right.
So are you wanting us to move for bringing back this item for the June 15th meeting?
Yeah.
Your request? Okay, so I move that we bring the rate increases back to council on June 15, 2020 for further consideration and possible adoption.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilperson Espandola, second by Councilperson Kirchner on items A and B under proposed water and wastewater rates for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have 4-4. Councilman Shaw, or Vice Mayor Shaw, has voted no. All right, item 12, adoption of the City of Yuba City's fiscal year 2021-2022 operating and capital budgets and fiscal year 2021-22 appropriations limits, presented by our Finance Director, Mr. Spencer Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. And this is a little bit of a truncated version of the presentation that I gave on May 25th, last Tuesday. So that presentation in full is on the city's website for you to view. I do want to just hit the highlights and recap here before asking for action from the council. I do want to mention first that, as the mayor just said, we do have ARPA, or HR 1319 funds coming to the city in 2 installments from the federal government, and those will be treated separately. Then this budget addressed separately, and a future staff report will be coming to the council to make recommendations from staff. The city does have one-time monies through cash flow. We had a $2.6 million surplus last fiscal year in 1920, and we're anticipating $2.5 million of surplus in sources in for 2021. And then we also, to utilize those one-time monies, we have programmed just under $1.9 million in capital improvement projects. Again, this is, perhaps I was remiss. We are talking about the general fund here, no other fund. And there will be some recommendations for pension stabilization out of these one-time monies, some other transfers and one-time items with total uses of about 3.1, again, in one-time spending. As the mayor just mentioned, in the operating budget, we are looking at a small structural surplus, about just under $128,000, where we're adding revenues to last year's very minimal revenue budget because of the concerns about the ongoing pandemic. We aimed pretty low last year. This year, we're adding just under $5.5 million. And in expenditures, we're adding about $3.5 million to the general fund budget. This graph just illustrates how council policy and direction shapes the budget. You can see that a little more, about 70% of the budget is safety and infrastructure here in Public Works. And then the other departments are either their own revenue generators in some way, like community services with the recreation programs, or support departments like human resources and finance, et cetera. The largest revenue changes, a good chunk of that is right up here in the sales tax. We were very doubtful this time last year at what sales tax was going to look for. I was very pessimistic. The news wasn't great going into the budget season, but we found very quickly into the early fiscal year that sales tax were strong and they continue to be robust. We also have really strong property taxes right now. We're expecting about $1 million increase. The largest expenditure changes, again, restoring the 2.5% reductions from a request that council made of the departments last year. They requested that we reduce our operating budgets by 2.5%, and one department at least reached for 5% reductions. And so putting those back, it's about $1.2 million. And then the other changes you see are mostly surrounding personnel changes and payroll changes. There is some capital acquisition requests from the departments. This is where these are funds set aside for technology replacement. You'll see some surveillance video systems and some police handheld patrol car radios. No budget talk is complete without a Calpers slide. So here's your Calpers slide. You can see that Calpers rates have increased pretty steadily. In 2016, actuarials, we thought they were going to be much worse than they are now. Calpers has reduced their estimate for Yuba City, where it is flattening out, but I think that this is going to be just temporary while Calpers contemplates reducing their assumption rate from 7% to something lower than that. These recommendations will be part of the resolution. We do recommend paying back the $500,000 we withdrew from the Pension Stabilization Trust, and this was again, as we were concerned in 1920 about being able to finish the budget year in the black, and so we withdrew $500,000 from the Pension Stabilization Trust to help offset general fund costs for pension. We also have a recommendation to make an additional discretionary payment to Calpers to help pay down that unfunded liability. We will be bringing at a future date some recommendations for fleet leasing for our light vehicle fleet, pickups and sedans essentially, and some lease financing recommendations for heavy vehicles such as fire engines, dump trucks, and a backcon truck. Not to rehash the enterprise discussion that we just had, but I do want to just show some slides on revenue and expenses and debt coverage ratio. For the water slide, you can definitely see that while revenues in orange are increasing, they're a lot more flat than the purple bars that are expense. And one of the items that Ms. Langley pointed out was the debt coverage ratio for waters. This includes the assumptions for rate increases will be still declining, but end up about 2.06 and is required to be at 120 by bond covenants, 1.2 for the coverage ratio. This slide also shows an additional element, net revenues in orange and cash reserves in the light blue. So here you can see that the cash reserves are declining, as are the net revenues. And a lot of the cash reserve decline is because we're programming those cash reserves for water improvements at the plants or in the ground. Very similar slide with wastewater revenues. Similar story. We do see revenues increases. We also see the expenditures increase at such a rate that the debt coverage ratio is just over 1.5, and it's required to be at 1.2. And Ms. Langley's slide showed this very well. And about every other time I look at this slide, the orange bars disappear. So pardon that. They were there last time I looked at it, so my apologies. But we can see how CIP has increased. The very tall bar, purple bar, is the wastewater treatment plant improvements of recent years. But as it starts to settle down, you can see that cash reserves are also starting to decline as well as we continue to program capital projects. The utility funds do have capital acquisition requests. In here is the back-on sewer jet truck and the 10-yard dump truck that I mentioned earlier that we'll be bringing back to council and contemplating lease financing. And some equipment for the lab here as well. Then I added in my presentation just a very brief summary of the capital improvement projects. As you read through the slide, I won't read it to you, but as you read through the slide, the capital improvement project funding requested by fund, the general fund, as I mentioned before, is just under 1.9 million. TDA, LTF money, which is transportation infrastructure money, is about a little over 1 million. Streets and roads funding, which comes from gas tax, is about a little over 1 million, and development impact fees coming from development is just over 3 million, and CDBG to help with some sidewalk repairs and ADA improvements is about 300,000. As we move over into the utilities funds, water's just over 3.3 million, wastewater just under 4.5 million. State revolving fund loans that Ms. Langley mentioned is 1 million this year in new program money, and other funding coming from grants, et cetera, is about 5.88 million in this budget. And that's new requests. With that, my recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 operating budget, adopt a resolution approving the 21-22 capital improvement program, and adopt a resolution approving the city's appropriations limit for fiscal year 2021-22. May I address any questions?
Questions from the council? All right, anybody from the public would like to comment?
I'm curious if you couldn't take some of the money from like bike path or other, and then, shave some of that money out and put it over on the water program, because that water program seems to be one of your biggest issues. And then that ARPA money, I guess it's called. Can any of that be shifted to the water program?
The bike path money, how much of that is grant funds?
I'd have to look it up.
Okay, don't worry about it. The ARP money is as I mentioned before, is we're trying to wrap our arms around exactly what that can be spent on and if there are any strings that are attached to that spending. We have received the first round of that. Mr. City Manager, any idea when we have some final info on what it can be spent for?
We are working on that now. We have the first tranche of money, which was $7.8 million. And the executive team will be working together to put potential projects together for the council and public's review and consideration.
I would say that when we were developing the budget, we were certainly mindful of this money coming in and its potential ability to help fund some of the water issues and wastewater issues. Yep.
So just to answer your question, Mr. Mayor, about just under $2 million of the $2.2 million is grant funding.
So that would be earmarked specifically for that project and not able to be transferred.
The remainder is transportation funding.
Right. I would like to mention one thing that I failed to mention and the city manager did mention last time, and maybe you could highlight this. One of the big items that was able to be funded in this was the restoration of firefighters out of the SAFER grant. Could you speak on that, please?
We were able to fund restoration of 6 firefighters that were previously funded by the SAFER grant. That was a lot of work by staff to come up with the method to do that, and we believe that through robust revenues and ongoing robust revenues from the sales tax, that we'll be able to adequately fund that, and we're very pleased to do so.
So major emphasis from the vice mayor and myself up through the council was to make sure that, again, we were taking care of essential services, police, fire, roads, water, and sewer. We're not discounting any of the other quality of life things that were going on, but it was important for us as a council to put a priority on some of these essential services. So I just wanted to make sure we highlight that. I missed that during the budget workshop. And once again, I think that sometimes, this seems like, hey, here's this budget thing, and they ran right through it, and they're gonna vote on it. This is hours and hours and days and months and of work. I'm not saying that for sympathy. I'm just telling you it's not something that somebody crunches some numbers over a weekend and throws at us. It's something that takes a lot of research, a lot of work by our department heads to determine what they need to manage their departments, and the staff in the finance department, Lynn Hale is in the audience, Mr. Morrison, are the tip of the spear to put that all together for all of us to consider this evening. Any other comments from the public? Nothing? Okay. Online?
No public comment.
Okay. Back to the council.
Through the mayor. Just a couple more comments, because I don't want to confuse people with my nay vote on the last one as it relates to the budget, because you've put it very well, what we've been through for 2 years going through this budget. It's not that I don't recognize the need. The need is real. We have gone through this budget. The funds just aren't there. But at the core and principle, that's where I just had to stop. And but the need is real, and this team of city employees and directors do a hell of a job with everything that they've given, and they've jumped through a whole lot of hoops. So kudos to you guys, Spencer, Diana, you and your entire team. You guys do it. I see the need. It is real. This budget, hours, days, months, for me it's been 2 years. Glad to get back right where our priorities should be, and that's what this city does well. And it's the essential services, which is fire, police, water, sewer, roads. Everything else adds into the quality of life, but those are the basics, and we talked about that as a council when we were going through COVID, and it was like spend money on this or do that, and it's like pull it back into the core. What is our essential function as a city? What do we need to provide? So it's a good budget, and by all means, do not confuse my last nay and principle as to there's not a need. There is a hell of a need for a lot more money than this city even has. So thank you, guys.
Through the mayor. Spencer and Lynn, thank you so much. You have fully made efforts with our CM, Dave, to really inform us in all the aspects of the work or the money and how everything's been. A lot of the funding has been modified in ways that it's much more digestible for any individual to really understand how city funds work and various and different revenues. I want to thank, I did this last time, but I want to acknowledge, because this is an actual council meeting, not a workshop, but I want to acknowledge Councilman Harris for, starting the lead on the budget ad hoc, along with Vice Mayor Shaw and Mayor Boomgarden. I believe that even though we've had such a challenging time in this last year with changes that were dramatically came into people's lives that were just unpredicted. And one thing that I believe as a council, along with the executive team, with Diana Langley in charge pretty much at that time, the best decisions that we made as a council were to really put some measures in there to be safeguards for funding. One thing was, hey, how can you reduce or stop any expenditures 2.5%? And that money saved us over $1 million that we can access and put back into the budget. In this last 2 years, as serving our community, I believe, and I don't know if anyone else has information, please correct me, because I do like being corrected if I'm saying something incorrectly. But I believe that this year is the first year that there's an actual surplus of funding that the city has experienced in, I don't know, at least 10 years or more. And I think that's an acknowledgement of the work of the executive team. That's the acknowledgement of the work of commitment and giving by the community that works for the city. And that's just the community in general, how we are. We all pitch in and we help out each other. So I want to thank everyone for that time frame that you were so generous in giving up, giving some of your funding. And one of the bigger issues was, how are we going to retain these safer, team members that we have for our fire department? How are we going to sustain this? How are we going to make sure that we do not reduce the level of service at each of these stations that are so necessary, and even more so necessary during COVID? I often saw our team out and serving people physically across the street, in front of my house sometimes, in other locations. There is so much that the community that works for the city, over 300 plus employees, and their commitment and their love to this city is admirable. And for us as a city to put our budget in a place where we have a surplus is incredible in this moment in time, but it's also a good problem to have that I would like to acknowledge. I'd rather have my own personal account to have a surplus of money in my own. I don't know who else likes having, less money in your account, right? Negative. I don't like my personal account to be that way. So I will be a good shepherd to make sure that the city's account has money in it and it's being spent according to what we all set as these priorities in our city. And we've been working on these priorities, and part of that is bringing these together, the funds to the priorities, and how does this all come together? And what else do we need to do as a city? Well, we need to raise those water rates, because our infrastructure is in really dire strait with that. And to be negligent on that is a bad decision, I would say. So I fully support the work that you've done, Spencer. I've seen the last 2 years how you and Lynn have really made this possible for us to be able to digest this and to work through this, and I'm ever grateful for your work. So thank you so much for what you've done for us in our community.
You good?
I'm good.
Good, good, good. Okay. Action from the council.
Through the mayor,
Sir.
I'd like to make a motion that the council adopt a resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 2021, 2022 operating budget. Also adopt a resolution approving the fiscal year 2021, 2022 capital improvement program. Project summaries by funding sources are, okay. And then adopt a resolution approving the city's appropriations limit for fiscal year 2021 and 2022.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kirchner and a second by the Vice Mayor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, item 12 passes unanimously. Thank you, Spencer, Lynn, everybody else too, Rob, Jesse, Diana. All right, item 13, we have the Harder Specific Plan presented by Mr. Ben Moody, our Development Services Director.
All right, so good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. So the item before you is a longstanding project and has some recent history with a special workshop that we had with the council and with the Planning Commission recently. And so tonight, it's really the that coming together. And so tonight, it's from the Planning Commission, from that workshop, and then the work that's been ongoing with the Harder Group. It's coming tonight before you in a two-part process where some of the ordinance are going to be introduced and adopt next time with some of the findings for tonight. And so you'll see this back before you at the next meeting with the second part to it. So bear with me. I'm going to, with the past work and the workshop, I'm going to do a high-level review, but definitely be happy to get into any specifics that the council wants during it. And then also just to note that the Harder Group and the Harder team is here and their representatives to help answer any questions about the project that you may have. So tonight, really what we're doing is a cleanup and some small modifications to the land use that's changed since this was originally developed in 2004. And so this project, the Harder, it's been really going on since the late 90s, early 2000s, with the Home Depot project, with the Walmart project, and then as it's changed over time to address the Sierra Central and the park and different changes. And so the Harder Specific Plan, for the audience, it's the area bounded by State Route 20 on the south, Butte House Road on the north, the houses Terra Buena area to the west, and then you have Tharp Road on the east. It's approximately 200 acres. So there's a specific plan is one of the main items that we're dealing with tonight. And so the city has had a requirement that a specific plan, when you have a development this big, that it takes the city's general plan, which is very high level, and it gets down into the very specifics of what size roads, what size infrastructure, what are some of the design requirements, and it gets into that, and then the specific land uses and analyzes that through the environmental impact report that was done. And so with this action tonight, we're actually amending the specific plan to update it for those land uses to reflect what the current proposal is and some of the cleanup changes that have happened over the last 15, 17 years. And so complete development, as mentioned briefly, the Home Depot completed in 2001, Yuba City Marketplace, the Walmart Supercenter in 2006, and then a portion of the business park up with the Sierra Central in 2015. So the items that have been working on with this last update specifically that we're considering over the next 2 meetings have to do with extending the development agreement. And so the development agreement basically establishes a timeline as far as how long these entitlements are valid for. And so it updates the development agreement and then adds in a possible 5-year extensions to it. The development, it updates the credit and reimbursement agreement. It provides credits, it spells out and goes through the public financing plan where there's a lot of work to identify fee credits that were applicable for city growth and road impacts that were city share versus harder shares, and also consider the park. And then we have the remove some timing of the park development. In there, there was specific language that at a certain point with the residential development, the park had to be constructed. And so with the land being dedicated and the city receiving grant funds for that park, that timing is no longer applicable with the development, so we're cleaning that up. So key land changes, really in the scheme of things, what we're doing here is we're taking this area down here, which was originally programmed for commercial office, and we're changing that to commercial. And then we're updating the land use up here to reflect what was already been approved with the Sierra Central. That was original business light technology to be commercial office to reflect the church. And then we have some fine tuning of the map regarding the multifamily area, the road layout here along the south. But really that's at an overall high level, that's what we're doing. We're cleaning up the general plan, the specific plan land uses to match in the size of the park, to reflect the water tower, to really clean that up from what it was proposed in 2004 to match what it currently is today. And then with the Planning Commission in April, we contingently approved the subdivision maps for the residential development here to the north, we call it Harder North, and the residential development Harder South, and then the commercial parcel map that was about 19 plus acres into about 20 plus lots in here to be ready for development. So proposed development, existing compared to what's there, really it's some minor changes. I don't know if you could kind of see the swooping road and some minor changes to the park dimensions. It is one of the big changes in this office commercial area down here that's now proposed as regional commercial. Here's just for the audience, it's a draft exhibit of the park that's proposed to be issued to bid late summer, fall is my understanding. And so with this planning action, it reflects the park size and the layout. This is showing kind of the flex area in between the commercial with the parking lot and the bike path, how it's going to tie in with the park. So as briefly mentioned at the at the Planning Commission meeting in April, contingently approved because the maps with the development agreement being tied to the maps on how long those last, those were contingently approved at the Planning Commission. And so there was a residential development Harder North. There was 73 single-family homes on 14.1 acres and a 7.7 acre multifamily site, three parcels in this triangular area here. We had the Harder South, bounded by Ruth, and then Jefferson. That was 77 residential lots on 15.4 acres and one remainder lot. And then you have the Harder Marketplace, which is the commercial piece. That is about 19.4 acres with the 22 commercial lots, which would be directly across from Buffalo Wild Wings, McDonald's, and would cover this area here where you come out of the signal at Walmart, and then provide opportunities for development here. So tonight, what we're asking for is to conduct a public hearing and then approve recommendations A through E. And with that, there's the environmental. So with that, there was a full-blown EIR that was handled in 2004. And what we're saying that this is an addendum that we're saying there's no substantial or significant impacts with these land use changes or with this project that warrant additional environmental analysis. So we're requesting for that finding. We're looking for you to adopt a resolution of the city to adopt a specific plan amendment. And then we're going to introduce the ordinance to the city council regarding the rezoning, and then introduce an uncodified ordinance of the city council regarding the development agreement. And then so next meeting, I'll come back before you regarding adopting these ordinances and then also discussing the reimbursement agreement. And so with that, I'd be happy to turn it over for questions or the Harder team.
Any questions of Ben before we invite the Harder folks to come up? Can you, again, just, I missed it. I know you flashed it up there. When was the initial Harder plan? What year was that? The very first one? 2004. Okay, thank you.
Correct. So 2004, and there's been obviously you had the Great Recession, and then as things changed it to adopt with this, and Harder and Tom could definitely add to it, the change in climate regarding just the need for office compared to today, and then the size of the commercial is different from that timeline.
Yeah, I was just trying to go back 17 years ago. Any of your group like to speak? I knew you would.
Green button on? Good evening, council members and mayor, council members, staff, and audience. My name is Tom Tucker, business manager for the Harder Packing Company, 1321 Harder Parkway. First of all, I'd like to say I'm very excited to be here. It's been 2.5 years in the making. We've analyzed everything we could. We took in what neighbors wanted to see in the plan that butt up to us. We've reached out to them when we've had meetings with them. And so, like I said, my excitement level is just awesome that we can get this to completion and get some homes built in Yuba City. For this process required that we worked with staff, environmental, financial, legal, and engineering consultants to bring you a viable housing project. We did not take any shortcuts during this process over this 2.5 years. We analyzed things and went back and reanalyzed. I believe we can all agree here tonight that Yuba City is in need of additional homes. The home market in Yuba City, available homes, is small compared to other communities. It's just because there's not enough available lots for home builders to build homes on. This project will bring 330 residential units consisting of 150 R1 single-family homes and up to 180 of multifamily homes to Yuba City. I believe Yuba City is in a unique position in that the project will provide the city with housing that is ready to go with attractive nearby park, commercial opportunities that will create a live, work, and play environment. And that's pretty much what people desire, is a comfortable place to live, close by work opportunities, which we have the shopping center, and walking distance for the residents of the area that can walk to a restaurant to eat at night instead of having to hop in their car and drive somewhere. All these things can be obtained with the approval tonight. Building new housing requires a very heavy commitment to build new infrastructure, and without the commercial contributions that have been made to our project, we wouldn't be here tonight. Would not be feasible to build these. Commercial has oversized, commercial and Harder Packing Company has put significant funds in oversizing utilities for the future build out. Our next phase of development will provide $13 million in city infrastructure with an additional $2.4 million in soft costs. So you can see it's a significant investment. Harder has received strong interest in the commercial development fronting Harder Parkway and Highway 20 frontages. as Ben showed, we came to the city to change the zoning of 4 acres of office that backed up to the commercial because it didn't seem feasible, and in Yuba City there's an abundance of office space available. So that we didn't see that for many years out. It led to a more cohesive shopping center. We deleted some roads. We forced traffic away from Ruth Road and connecting roads for the residential. There was 4 inlets and egress and inlets out of the residential area in the south. We narrowed that to 2 so that people would not just take a shortcut through a subdivision to get to Harder Road. So we went and did our plan and changed that to benefit those people on Ruth, that people wouldn't be taking shortcuts through their neighborhoods. Harder has not received any inquiries as to the office land development. I said that's one of the driving reasons that we sought to change that, was that there was no interest and we saw that there was a surplus. We are committed, however, to office development along the Butte House corridor in the area of Sarah Central Credit Union. That plan, we haven't changed anything in that configuration between Harder Road, the former railroad track, Tharp Road, and Butte House. There's no changes on that. I'm available for any questions the council members or staff may have. And before I do that, though, I would like to introduce you to our team of experts, and they are here tonight to answer any of your questions. Ms. Christina Irwin with ESA Environmental, Mr. Jay Harris, our land use attorney with Pioneer Law Group, Mr. Mike Whipple, who prepared the public financing, development, and public financing plan for the project. A lot of work went into that. We wanted to make sure that the funding was there. So when we went, we had a plan that we could refer to and move forward with. Mr. Sean Harris, our engineer with MHM, unfortunately is not here tonight. Up till 4 o'clock today.
Sean Menard.
Sean Menard, excuse me.
He's not an engineer.
Mr. Sean Menard, our engineering is not, Mr. Sean Menard, our engineer with MHM Engineering, is not here tonight. Up till 4 o'clock, he's going to be here until I got a surprise call, and he said, it's my anniversary. I said, you better get your priorities or else you're going to have a cold dinner tonight. So I'm sure Diana or Ben, somebody from Public Works, can answer any questions that you might have on the infrastructure. So I'm available for any questions now, or if you want to continue with the meeting, I can come back and answer them again, or either after.
All right. How about council? Do you have any questions for Mr. Tucker or any of the members of his team? I think we're pretty familiar with your project.
I think you are too.
Okay. Well,
hopefully I won't have to be appearing, but maybe one more time. And
that's okay.
Well,
You're always welcome, Tom.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I do have a couple of speaker cards on this before we do the public hearing. So I would invite Mary Page to comment.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
So are you officially opening public hearing at this point?
I have on my cheat notes here, do we have any comments from the public? And then if I open the public hearing, I have comments from the public again. Would you rather me not go in that sequence?
Would you mind just opening the public hearing, then having the comment cards? Does that make
Absolutely.
sense? Thank you so much.
So you don't want me right now?
Not time out. Hold on. It won't take long.
Okay.
Okay. The public hearing on the Harder specific plan is now open. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the council on this issue, please provide your statement via public comment. State your name and address for the record. Do we have any comments from the public on this item? Ms. Page.
All right, good evening. My name's Mary Panerio Page, and I'd like to say, Mayor Boomgarden and Council, I live on Ruth Avenue. I've been in the community here for 45 years and 28 years on Ruth Avenue. And I can see there's been a lot of research and homework done that I'm behind the 2-year mark. But I did want to put out some talking points just because as it is right now, we've seen a lot of growth in the area and a lot of positive growth with the bike path. I think it's been one of the most positive things we've seen for recreation, especially with COVID. People were out there in force. I appreciate being able to walk around town. I don't always have to take my car. But I do have some talking points, and I'm sure you have some answers, and if not, we can find some together. But the intent of the Harder specific plan that I remember was always intended to be utilized for commercial and industrial development. And it had a limit to the single-family homes within 5 acres. And now it seems to be really increasing. I do agree we need homes in the area. I don't know if anyone has really looked between George Drive and Butte House Road, possibilities. So that's one talking point. Currently, we have a high traffic of homelessness in the area, and I don't know how the city plans to address the homelessness as we go along. I know the city parks have most of their bathrooms closed during the day, and I don't know how that's going to be monitored and facilitated as we go along, but I'm all for the park. Single-family homes off of Ruth Avenue, I don't know how large they're going to be, but most of the homes in the area are between around 600,000 to 1 million. And I don't know if this is an ideal place to place single-family homes and possibly changing property values. I don't know if anyone's done a traffic study to determine the impacts on all our roads in the neighborhoods. I know we do have people racing down Ruth Avenue frequently. And does the city of Yuba City have enough capacity, which we've been talking about tonight, for water and sewer to handle additional services for this specific plan? And last but not least, has there been an environmental impact report addressed with storm drainage and the effects of how it will impact the existing neighborhoods? So those are just some talking points that I have living in the neighborhood for a long time. And I'd be happy to receive answers, if not tonight, at the next meeting. But I just wanted to share that and see maybe if there can be some contingencies of making it so it's a little more livable versus being so congested that there's just a lot going on in one neighborhood. Thank you.
You want to try to pick some of those off and some might need some follow-up? I was writing them down too, so.
Yeah, so please remind me if I missed any. And so just to highlight and start out for the group is that this plan was substantially complete in 2004. So it was done in 2004 where there was a full environmental analysis and review of all of the traffic for those land use types that analyzed the flow, the stormwater, everything about water, the water capacity, the parks, the open space that went into that specific plan that nailed that down. And so to highlight, there's the single family residential R1 has been in the plan since day one. So there's no changes tonight with the existing plan for the residential. So at any point in time, Harder could have come in today and say, we want to process our subdivision map for the residential. And so with this, though, they decided to strategically group it together, come in with the parcel map, the land use changes, and update it all together for to clean up some of those finance plans, reimbursement agreements, and the land use changes. But the residential has not changed since 2004. And so I just wanted to make sure I highlight that. And then Ruth Avenue, that's definitely a concern, Public Works and looking at traffic and being into that neighborhood and just how it affects it, where people are racing down Ruth Avenue and coming around. With this, there will be some homes that face Ruth Avenue. I believe there's 11, 12 homes that will be facing Ruth. And then there's going to be one inlet that now comes along this southern portion and then comes up. And so ultimately, staff, I feel that if this project helps move that issue going forward, because really, if you have cars racing around to come over here, now you have a bypass road that maybe they'll cut across over. And then this also helps facilitate the ultimate construction of Jefferson Avenue as we build this to the west. That's that connection point across, so they're not cutting across these neighborhood surface roads. And so that's with, the residential has been the same. There's no changes to the residential with this project except with some road alignments with the tentative map. The prices, really, the Harder Group could answer that. They are what we're starting to see as typical lots in Yuba City due to the construction prices, due to land values, due to what it costs in the formula to pencil out a house. But these are 55-foot wide by 112-foot lots. And so they're a higher density than what you've seen of the 80s and 90s, but that is really the norm and what pencils out now, and it's well within the city's general plan densities. Water sewer, definitely analyzed for capacity, and through this project with the Harder development, they actually dedicated the land for the Harder tank sites, and so we could add to that just depending on how specific we want to get.
A couple that Ms. Page brought up was the park. Is there restroom facilities in that park? I know some of our parks, we do not even include a restroom facility.
There is a proposed restroom facility with that park.
Okay. And a concern about the homeless, I will say that is probably a citywide issue, and that it is one of our priorities that we recently discussed as a council. So it's not specific to that particular area. Operate a business a little bit south of there. And I can tell you that, yeah, we've got some people, and I know the vice mayor does as well. And our police department is doing, and I think we're doing a little more investment with a homeless liaison officer. At least we're planning to go in that direction as well to try to address some more of those homeless problems. Can't guarantee you a fix on that one, but it is certainly top of mind. I would say that there's probably a legitimate concern about restrooms. I know that's something that the city has historically taken a look at. So we may want to get together with Mr. McIntyre and talk about, limiting access to those during daylight hours or something like that, if that's not already in the plan.
You definitely verify.
Did we catch most of it?
I think you did.
Okay. Mr. Moody's always available if you want. If you think of something, please feel free to give him a call. He's a pretty easygoing guy. He'll get you the information for sure. Okay. All right. I also have a card from Heather Essman.
Hi, so I'm just too tall for this thing. Sorry about that. So Heather Essman again. I know that these are just basically the zoning and the plans. I was looking at the maps that you had, and I just wanted to encourage you not to jeopardize the bike path plan. That I believe that I had this discussion with him a couple of years ago in that little senior. There was a tour that we did, and with Miss Langley. And there was a small group, unfortunately, but there were a lively group, and discussed the park and the plan for the bicycles there. And just to remind you then, when you're making these decisions, you make the final decision, but you have to make sure not to just trust what the Planning Commission gives you, not to trust just what the city, and they're doing a great job, but to make sure that when you're doing that you really consider that there are bike paths on absolutely all the streets. I know there's certain rules that you have to abide by, but there's also some leeway since it's going to be a planned development, and you can make some demands, basically, to make sure that you remember just south of this area, there is a high school, and once you've built this out, you're sure to have high school students who are walking or riding their bikes to school, and you want to make sure that everything that comes from that area where all the residents are, that goes down to that high school, that they have more than enough space so that we don't have any problems for the students to actually walk or ride their bicycles. Also, Pool Road there, that's not a bike path, it looks like a road. So it's not something where it actually connects to the bike path, but there may be people that are intending on using that. So I'm hoping that also has enough leeway for bicyclists. Don't expect people here to share the road. I do have a bike, and they don't always do that. They like to honk at me if I'm taking too long. I'm sorry, I can't go any faster. And some of those roads only have about this much space between the line and gravel, which can also be a bit of a hazard. And to kind of counter what the gentleman said earlier, I live within the city limits, and for some weird and inexplicable reason, I only have a few minutes here, I can't explain it in more detail. I have sewer, but I do not have water. My neighbors all have water, but they do not have sewer. So I would prefer that my tax-paying money that I am paying through my property taxes, I vote for the bike path, not the water. So just so that, unfortunately, the lady's not here anymore, to kind of explain that the reason why you have an enterprise fund, the reason why you pay for water specifically, so that people who aren't using the water, they don't get charged for you using water, whereas my neighbors do not get charged for sewer because they don't have sewer. They were incorporated, so they all have those sewer. They're not actually hooked up to sewer. So I encourage you to always question that and double check, because on these maps, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not they actually have full space and markings for those bicycle paths. So, thank you.
Mr. Harris, did you want to talk about the bike paths and the plans for the bike path? I think that's part of your...
It is, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. We don't really have anything concrete yet. We're working on a feasibility study, get that initiated at first. But I appreciate that support, and if you have any way to get a hold of me, I might need you and a few other people to, we need to create a Friends of the Bike Path organization, if you will, because not only does that help get the word out and get some usage up, but it also helps us a great deal when we go to apply for grant funding. If the folks who are writing the check know that the community is behind the project, and this isn't just for this little area right here. This is all the way, it's visioned all the way out and to Plumiston Bridge and beyond into Yuba County. But looking forward to getting some more progress in that. And we are going to go out, from what my understanding, we're going to go to a RFP in about August or September, so we can get that ball rolling. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yep. I think I just wanted to make sure you understood that as a priority, this bike path thing is a big deal for us, and trying to make sure that bikes there. Also, the city's been really engaged with a project called Safe Routes to Schools, and our Public Works Department, in fact, a couple weeks ago, we just approved some more Safe Routes to Schools. So I think your point about making sure folks can get across the highway to the school is a good one. Thank you. Mr. Burns.
So it appears to me that a lot of thought and care has gone into this, and I like the project, so I just wanted to say that. But I had a question, like Harder Packing Company, isn't that building vacant? And what's the plan for that building? Just curious.
Yes, please, Tom. Thank you.
Again, Tom Tucker, Harder Packing Company, 1321 Harder Road. As to Harder Packing Company, when the canning operations ceased to exist, I took it upon myself to find lessees, and we have numerous buildings. In those buildings, I have lessees that assemble motorcycles, another lessee that makes air cleaners and filters for motorcycles, also makes household HAVC filters. They got in bed with Amazon, and they're busting at the seams. They just increased their space. So I have, besides those two, I have NorCal RV and Boat Storage, owned by Harder Packing, the largest RV and boat storage between Sacramento and Redding, which is an indoor business, 3 warehouses full of it. Also, we have a truck repair shop, and we do have What other businesses? You got me on the spot, but there's about 7 or 8 different businesses there. I'm totally leased out. It's an employment center. It employs people from the local community, and we're going to continue operations until it becomes more feasible. It's a huge infrastructure burden just for that industrial portion of the property, and it's an interim measure. Once we can finalize a plan or have a buyer or a user, we'll reconsider repurposing that facility. But it is viable nowadays, and it is a good producer for people's jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Any other questions from the council?
He's nodding his head. I think he's good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? Anybody online?
We do have one comment, or actually several questions from one individual, P. Ramirez. His questions are, will there be a commitment to utilize local hire? Will the contractor be required to provide worker health care? Will the contractor be required to pay area standard wages on this project? Will the project reinvest in education of the next generation by requiring the use of the state certified apprentices?
So nothing in the action, or I'll defer to the attorney.
And I'll go where Mr. Moody was going. Nothing in this action goes down to that level. This is not about construction. This is not about prevailing wage or standard wage or apprenticeships. This is about high-level planning documentation as to what you put in an area, like residential here, commercial here. So to the person online, that's not a question that's before us this evening. That would come at a later time, and a lot of that is up to the individual developer as to what they want to do.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney.
Nothing further.
Okay. Hearing no further comment on the issue, correct, counsel? Okay. Hearing no further comment on this issue, I'm closing the public hearing and bringing the matter back to the council for action.
You're the mayor?
Yes.
I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of this. I move that we adopt 13 B, C, D, and E.
Second.
Through the mayor, if you wouldn't mind me reading the 2 ordinance items into the record so we don't have to read the full one, and I will do that now. That would be introduce an ordinance to the City Council of the City of Yuba City rezoning 1901 for the Harder specific plan located between State Route 20 on the south and Butte House Road on the north along the east and west sides of Harder Parkway, ends 5910-01 and 04, 62310, 04, 09, 010, 011, 012, and 013, and waive the first reading. Item E, introduce an uncodified ordinance to the City Council of the City of Yuba City for the Second Amendment to the Development Agreement with Harder Packing Company and Brown Yuba City, LLC, relative to the development of the Harder specific plan, and waive the first reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's pretty good at that.
We'll take 2 of those.
Not wasting any time.
Thank you, Shannon. Did I get a second?
I second.
Okay, so I have a motion by the vice mayor, supported by the city attorney, seconded by councilperson Harris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposite, any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. There you go. All right, item number 14 this was the item that has been recommended for being continued to our next meeting. Item 15, future agenda items. This is an opportunity to discuss with the city manager about items that came up in the meeting this evening that you would like to have brought back to the council at a later date. Are there any other comments relating to agenda items that have made, let me back up. Anything you guys want on the agenda for the 15th? Seeing none. Are there any comments relating to the agenda items that may have come in during the meeting, Sierra?
No public comment.
Okay. Go ahead and move on to reports and communications. The following reports and communication items are provided for the council's information. No action can be taken on these items under this section unless the council agrees to include it on a subsequent agenda. First up this evening is Councilmember Kirchner.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I'd like to start by saying how much I appreciated being involved with the Fire Ops 101 Academy a few months ago, and to the gentlemen and ladies in the audience. It gave me a new appreciation for that line of work, so thank you once again for that. Well, it's been a lot of budget workshops, but see, on the 19th, the Oversight Board was canceled. Along with, we did have a priorities workshop that evening, 21st budget review, 25th budget study session, another workshop. A lot of good stuff we talked about that we talked about this evening as well. I am happy to announce to anybody that doesn't already know that baseball will continue this season for Yuba City Gold Sox. We will have baseball in the area, so their first season opener, is the 3rd, which will be this Thursday at Bryant. Is that right? Bryant Field over in Marysville. So come on out, enjoy baseball. To the mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Vice Mayor Shaw. Hold on, wrong number. Next up is Councilmember Harris. Ms. Bentley.
Well, I'm going to be quick and easy, too. I also was, of course, present at the priorities workshop and the budget study session, which was appreciated. Learned a lot, and definitely appreciate all the hard work that goes into all those documents. SACOG, it's a review time for executive directors, both on SACOG and Transit Authority. We did the review of Executive Director Corliss, also adopted our final budget and overview overall work plan. Transit Authority, again, with Michael Bassett's review. He does a great job. And we have the special meeting approving making an offer on the purchase of Avondale property for the relocating the transit facility out in Linda in response to the growing need for space. And of course, the Highway 70 project is probably very likely going to be consuming some of their property. But a mandate to go all electric, they definitely needed some increased space. We went through an extensive review process, made recommendations. Board unanimously accepted the recommendation, which is out in Avondale. And based on our last meeting, and perhaps you can elaborate if you want to, but we went ahead and going to make an offer on that property, and hopefully it'll go through. And we're excited to see some results out there. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Espandola.
Am I the third batter? Is that a bad position?
You led off twice in a row.
Okay, I'm just wondering. Thank you. It's been, last week it's been, or the last couple of weeks have been pretty slow meeting-wise. Attended the priorities workshop and the proposed budget workshop that has already been mentioned. And I plan on attending the baseball games Thursday, I think. If I can get a fan or an umbrella, something, for the heat. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Now, sir.
Thank you, sir. So it has been kind of a busy couple of weeks, culmination of a long process with the Budget Ad Hoc Committee and everything working forward. So thank you for everyone involved, several of them. Oh, there's Spencer. Spencer, you and your team and all the department heads, thank you guys. It's been quite the adventure, and we did some good work, so thank you. Going back to Transit Authority, we did submit the official offer on the Avondale property, which would not put the future transit facility in Yuba City. It would be out in Linda. But as the subcommittee from both sides of the river looked at, it was honestly the best location that was presented. And so great work there, Councilmember Harris, you and the rest of the team. We did have a special meeting, and I signed the contract on Friday afternoon. It's going through discovery right now for the last couple of conditions, and fully expect to have it closed realistically probably under 30 days. And what is significant about that is a couple of weeks ago, we worked with RHA about the new project they brought forward. The Avondale property, even though it's over in Linda, it's tied back to the credits on that property as well. So it's going to make that project even more attractive for our area. So while we may have lost the transit facility, it may add to the housing project that they're going to be looking at over in Richland Housing. So the other one was RWMA. The only thing that's important there is the JPA is still getting near its final, and I expect it to be probably before us in July or August. You guys have all been briefed about this before, but it all structures around, and Mr. City Manager, help me, it's 1383, correct, is the nuisance ordinance that, I call it a nuisance because we got to deal with it, but it has to do with diversion and waste and stuff. So that's why we are forming the new JPA with the RWMA. So that will be coming probably in July or August because it had a little hiccup and had to be reworked. So that's it, other than going to A Grateful Nation Remembers. And again, thank you to Pastor Cecile and the entire staff out there, and to Dave Reaver for speaking. Very, very moving.
All right, thank you, sir. Mine are pretty short. The city manager and myself attended the county supervisors meeting at their invite as they approved the master tax exchange agreement. So we finally have a master tax exchange agreement with Sutter County, and so the next good stuff begins. Ben, Diana, and everybody else, thank you for your help with that. That's a big deal for the city of Yuba City. On Sunday, I was invited out to the Sikh temple to meet Mr. Soman Debnath. He's a guy that he's ridden his bike since 2004 around the world. And he decided to stop here in Yuba City and wanted to meet the mayor. So he's of Indian descent, so he ended up out at the Sikh temple, and so I went out and met him. He's fascinating story. If you're interested at all, look him up on the internet. But his next stop was Reno, and his bike is well worn, but he's a great guy. I did attend the Grateful Nation Remembers, and we spoke about that earlier this evening. Fantastic program. I hadn't been to that for several years, and they put on quite the production. The acting company asked if I would perform in a play, and so I did that. It's virtual. So I don't know how you do a virtual play, but I guess it starts on the 11th of June. So myself and some other electeds were drafted into that. Take a look at it. It's probably pretty funny.
Mayor, what was your role?
Professor Lockie. I'm not into, what the heck is it? Oh, I can't remember. Thank you. Harry Potter. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It's a Harry Potter play. But the acting company was so much energy, fun stuff. Two great things that I think I want to announce. I have the privilege of announcing that you all will be happy to hear. Number one, we are planning a parade for 4th of July this year. It will be somewhat different as far as how the food's delivered. And I'm not exactly sure if we're going from Center Street or the town fountain. I'm hoping it's Center Street to return it to its roots.
We're still working out the details,
Okay.
Mayor, but we should have that at the next meeting.
And as I mentioned before, later that evening, we will be having a fireworks show that comes out of the Riverfront Park. With that, I closed the meeting tonight. You know, I see we have some of our firefighters here, and of course our chief of police, and just over the last few days, like the last 48 hours, we lost another police officer, and apparently we've lost a firefighter to violence, and it's just heart. It makes my heart really heavy, the fact that our public safety folks are finding themselves in harm's way as often as we read in the newspaper anymore. So I'd like to close the meeting recognition of the service that the police and firefighters provide to us, and remain safe, please. Thanks.